What is up, everybody? Welcome back here to the Devy Royale on the YouTube channel. Today, we're going to do something a little different. So what we've been doing on this channel is doing reading the rooms, and we've been looking at college. But now today, we're going to be looking at NFL. So we're going to be diving in this summer and looking at kind of like what can you expect from different rooms across NFL and from a fantasy perspective, right? Dynasty values, ADPs, who are we thinking is going to start, and where is that value at? And so we're going to be looking at the San Francisco 49ers for this first one, and in particular, the quarterback room. So we're going to read the quarterback room. I'm going to go through you guys where that ADP is at, where the value's at, where the dynasty value's at, and then kind of some analysis of my takes on how the situation could play out. And what is what is the best move to make in that room? Because it is crowded, it is complicated. So we're going to dive in after the intro. Hit that like and subscribe button. I'll catch you guys on the other side. All right, let's dive into this bad boy. We're going to be looking at this quarterback room, which is a pain in the ass to kind of decipher, right? So we're looking at the offense last year, and this is why it is so frustrating as far as fantasy goes, because this offense puts up fantasy points and puts up points, right? So the scoring offense, sixth in the nation. See, I thought it was college. NFL last year, 25.9 points per game. Total offense is fifth in the NFL, 359 yards per game there, right? Plays per game, 23rd. So we did see that go down a little bit. That's just kind of something that Shanahan does. When you got rushing yards, so we have Christian McCaffrey there right now. They're seventh, so 136.8 point game. Rushing attempts, almost 30 per game. Rushing average, you see that there, right? 4.6 yards per carry. Passing yards, passing attempts, and passing average. It tells the story of what the San Francisco 49ers are, right? So you look at passing yards, they're 14th, kind of middle of the pack. Passing attempts, they're towards in the bottom half of the league, 27th in the NFL for passing attempts, but their passing average is 8 yards per pass attempt because of that offense, and it just creates fantasy points. And it just creates in terms of what they're trying to accomplish in the offensive area, the quarterback elevates, the offense elevates the quarterback. And so that's what we're looking at. Like, that's why, knowing who the 49ers quarterback is and is going to win people leagues next year. It's just that simple, especially where the ADP's at. So let's go through each player. So first guy we're going to be talking about is Trey Lance. Now, what I want to do on these is give you a little bit of an overview of what is he as a prospect, what's he been. The problem with Trey is he just hasn't played, right? So last year he played with Chicago, and then he got hurt in that Seattle game. Wasn't great in those first two games, but the Chicago game was a downpour, right? So what are we thinking there? I think overall, when you're just looking at this, everybody keeps saying the draft capital is what matters for Trey. The reality is he's only thrown 420 passes since high school. We just don't know what he is. And if anybody out there saying with a definitive he is a bust, they're full of shit. So I'm going to say that again. They are full of crap. We don't know what he is. We haven't been able to see that. We know that he has elite rushing upside when he's healthy. We know that he's in an offense that can produce quarterbacks to be really good when they're not, right? So Trey Lance, to me, is the biggest unknown in NFL right now in quarterback play. We don't know what this kid is. We just don't. Now, as far as like what we can expect from him, when you're looking at what he did in terms of last year, obviously we didn't see that. But in 2021, we saw him a couple times. In week 17 against Houston, he was the 10th fantasy quarterback overall in that week. He had 249 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He had a little bit of rushing upside. And then against Arizona, he did show that rushing upside. He had 89 yards, 16 attempts. Now, what does that look like? He's been kind of rebuilding his throwing motion. He's trying to get his mechanics down, and it seems to be improving. So let's just kind of look at where he's at. So our rank here at Football Guys, Dynasty rank is quarterback 16. Dynasty ADP, though, he is, and this is new Dynasty ADP, so shout out DLF because they have the ADP out there, so go sign up for their website. QB 25, so he has dipped down the quarterback 25, 5th round in Superflex. When I saw that ADP, I think for me personally looking at it, I was like, wow, I have not seen him dip that low before, but in reality, that's where he's going right now. People are pretty out on Lance. Now, possible ceiling, though, doesn't really correlate with what his ADP is. He's a quarterback 1, and he is the only quarterback 1 like low end quarterback one on this roster. So let's keep that 100. He is the only one that has that rushing upside and has that potential of being that quarterback one ceiling. Now, his floor is incredibly low, though. That's where the ADP lies, right? So that's the question mark. Now, what I want to do for all of these is I want to break down what their trade value is. So these are real trades that went on in Superflex leagues, 12 teams, Superflex, 6-point passing touchdowns, 6-point rushing touchdowns, PPR, right? So Trey Lance for Aaron Rodgers. To me, that's a win now team going for it. Doesn't think Lance is going to start and wants to grab Aaron Rodgers, right? I've seen this deal a couple times with older quarterbacks, not necessarily Rodgers. So if you're a win now team and Lance is your QB3 and you're like, hey, I need, or maybe QB2 and you want a more safer floor, that could be an option for you. Remember, I don't give you these to say to do them. I'm just giving you these to give you context. The best thing you can do in fantasy is context, right? When we're thinking about leagues, everything is micro transaction, micro leagues of like, hey, what is the market set in those leagues? Now, next one, Amon-Ra St. Brown for Trey Lance and 24 first. Amon-Ra is getting valued by some as a top 5 wide receiver. Obviously, they believe in that. They gave up Lance and a first there. So think about that. If you have Lance in the first, you need a wide receiver. Do you believe in Amon-Ra? How does that look? Next one, Trey Lance for Jordan Addison. So when you're looking at that, he got traded straight up. The pick was Jordan Addison. That happened in one of my Superflex leagues. So I wanted to give you guys that update as well of where these guys are kind of going, right? Now, next guy, Brock Purdy. So this is the guy, the man of the hour, right? So we probably wouldn't be having this conversation if he didn't get his injury last year against the Eagles, right? Torn UCL. He looks like he's back. It looks like he's starting to compete, and they said that he's going to be throwing by the time maybe at the end of August, right? So when we're thinking of like how that looks, then we're having a quarterback battle maybe, or Lance is going to have to take that battle and win it in August early against Sam Darnold, who we're going to talk about in a minute. Now, let's talk about Purdy. So what did Purdy do last year? So from week 13 to week 18, here's what he put up. Here is his weekly finishes as a quarterback. Quarterback 18, quarterback 8, 14, 13, 9, and 5. So he basically had 3 top 12 finishes and 3 outside. When you're looking at the opponents, though, that he had those big games against, Las Vegas and Arizona to kind of finish out the year. He against Las Vegas, he did really well, but against a poor opponent. And then Arizona obviously was a dumpster fire. And that was the last week 18. Pretty much everybody's sitting there. In the 2 games that he played a pretty good defense, Seattle and Washington, they did win those games. But when you're looking at what he put up, he put up weeks, 14, 13 outside quarterback 1. That is to me Brock Purdy's ceiling, QB 14. Right. And so if you're looking at that from like a quarterback, like a super flex perspective, what do we think that is with Purdy? Right now, what I will say is that his ADP is not bad if you're looking for that guy. Right. So he's in our rankings, quarterback 28 in Dynasty, but his ADP right now is quarterback 24, 5th round. So he's actually going right ahead of Trey Lance. Right now, that's flipping and flopping, okay? So, like, it really kind of depends on what the league values him at. But right now, this is the first month that we've seen this. Purdy has flipped in front of Lance. Again, this is all about perspective and context about what's going on in your leagues. The issue I have is that his possible ceiling to me is a quarterback 2. Now, his floor is higher, though. So, like, compared to Lance, if Purdy gets out there based on the weapons that San Francisco has, now we're talking about like a solid quarterback 14, right? This is what we wanted Mac Jones to be. Hey, could be that guy that kind of elevates himself, but he's in a better offense. He has better weapons. He's got a better coach. That's where you're looking at with Brock. Now, as far as value goes, little different than Lance. Lance is still getting valued, even though his ADP is around Brock Purdy's value. You're seeing the value here. So maybe Purdy to use is go get a buy, right? Dameon Pierce for Brock Purdy. Are we betting on a Dameon Pierce who is not an elite pass catcher, who said he's working on it this offseason and doesn't have the draft capital, right? For a 23-year-old quarterback that if he is named the starter and they make him the starter moving forward, could be a solid quarterback 2 in Superflex. Then you got Russell Wilson for Jimmy G, Brock Purdy, and Albert O. So basically just a combination of package for Russell. I believe in Russell. I think he's going to bounce back a little bit better than what he did last year, but maybe you want to pivot off of that. You get that kind of older guy in Jimmy, and then you got Brock, right? Insurance with Jimmy, maybe that quarterback 2, and then you have Brock. Maybe he's named the starter, and then Brock Purdy for Alvin Kamara. Kamara's value is all over the place right now based on what that suspension is going to be. Now, the third guy, Sam Darnold. Shout out Sam Darnold. I'm going to give him a shout out. I wrote probably my biggest piece ever on Sam Darnold. Last year he looked okay for the Panthers, right? Put him right there competitively down the stretch. when you're looking at what he did as far as his last few games of fantasy rank, 16, 20, 20, and an 8-6. The thing with Darnold is he has a rushing upside, right? So you saw that rushing upside, as he kind of progressed, he does have that. He has a little bit better than Purdy, in my opinion. So, and he's going to compete. I've always liked Darnold. I always thought he kind of got a raw deal with the New York Jets. He probably needed to come back at USC, not go when he needed to. But when you're watching what he's been able to do, that rushing upside is something that excites you. But I think he's competing for Lance, early on in that camp. I don't think Purdy's going to be there. And where does that battle kind of line up? It is an interesting move that they went out and got him, though. That's something to kind of know, right? Now, as far as his ADP, he's going around 18th round, quarterback 39. We have him a little deeper, quarterback 49. Possible ceiling, I guess, QB2 if he starts, right? Because of that rushing upside. As far as his value, Sam Darnold for a 4th, Isaiah Likely, Sam Darnold, Will Levis for Antonio Gibson, Calvin Ridley. Not a lot of deals that I would do for Darnold, in my opinion. I just think that you're banking on a lot of different things. Lance not panning out, Purdy not being there. So to me, it's really between Purdy and Lance. Now, let's talk about their offensive outlook real quick. When you're looking at the depth chart, they have some of the best weapons in the NFC, right? Christian McCaffrey, running back 1. He should probably be the running back 1. You're looking at wide receivers. Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, I think is the best wide receiver on that roster, in my opinion. I think that he's a value in fantasy right now. I just got him at wide receiver 37 in a best ball redraft, league today. That's something to look at, right? Juwan Jennings is there, Danny Gray. And then you have Kittle, Dwelly, Cameron Latou, who's going to probably do something this year. Wouldn't shock me, tight end from Alabama. So they have all the weapons they need, and then they have an offensive system that elevates their quarterbacks. This is why you need to hit on this. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, whoever you hit on, whoever starts, could you win you leagues? And my prediction, I'm sticking with Lance. I know that's going to be the outlier, not a very popular opinion, so I know I'm going to hear it in the comments. Now remember, this is kind of from a fantasy perspective, but also from who they can win with. And I really feel like they can win with Lance. I know that Purdy looked good. I think Lance gives him a higher ceiling as a quarterback. And I think from a fantasy perspective, I'm drafting Lance at quarterback 24, 25 over Purdy. We know what Purdy is. Even if Lance doesn't win the job, let's say he moves on to another team or whatever the case may be, there are going to be opportunities out there. Look at some of the starters that we've seen the last couple of years. Look at Matt Ryan was starting last year. We saw all these quarterbacks, Sam Howell, Taylor Heineke of these guys out there. We've seen these things. The NFL is drastically needs quarterback talent. Lance is going to get an opportunity, even if he doesn't win here. If you draft him as your quarterback 3 in a super flex league in Dynasty, or you go out and buy him right now for the cheap, even if he doesn't maybe pan out in San Francisco or they move on from Purdy, someone's going to give Lance a chance. And I still think he's going to capitalize on that value. You know what that value is going to be. I think Purdy's value is capped. Lance's is not. And that's how I kind of look at the dynasty asset there. And you're probably drafting both of these guys as your quarterback 3. So I'd take the higher ceiling quarterback 3 over the lower ceiling quarterback 3, and I'll roll the dice, right? And I do think that he's going to start next year for San Francisco, as long as he performs in camp, right? And I'm not going to be one of those truthers that says no matter what, he's got to perform, he's got to step it up. But just looking at from a value perspective, what your proposed ceiling can be, and they're both quarterback 3s, I'm going to take the shot on Lance. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun with this. We're going to be doing a little bit more fantasy, NFL quarterback rooms and all that. Hit that like button. Let me know in the comments, though. I'd like to get into this with you guys. Let me know what you think about this room. What do you think that's going to happen here between these three, these quarterbacks? And do you think Darnold has any shot here, or is this the Lance and Purdy show? So appreciate you guys. I'll check you guys next time. Be sure to check out the Patreon. Look for our rankings. Look for everything down there, down in the description. I'll see you guys later.